Undertaker, they were saying Kane was burnt up, and he wasn't. He came and he whooped the Undertaker. Undertaker took some time off, came back. So if you didn't see that, I don't consider you a fan.
So we're just talking about that first part.
Just there when he came in, like you were saying, how Kane was burnt alive, came back. He ripped the cage off the Hell in a Cell. All of that, and not the Brothers of Destruction. That's because the Brothers of Destruction and the Kane versus Undertaker story, two different stories.
So let me interject on that. Then I still don't think you're not a fan because you got to remember DX was running Rapid then. Well, and that was a DX match.
It was a
DX match. If you was following DX during that time, then yeah, you're fine. You're a fan because why would you introduce something like that in the middle of a DX era?
You sure your timeline is right about that?
Shawn Michaels DX was formed. They was still together then. Remember, he went against Shawn Michaels when Kane came out and was introduced.
But you're talking about when Kane was with the gray gloves and when he came back with the purple gloves. That was the rivalry era, correct, Ken? If I'm not mistaken.
No, when he was in a match with Shawn Michaels when Kane debuted.
Right.
Okay.
You're amazed by the quality of storytelling with their body, their promo. You know, if you're watching and you're a fan, right? I'm not saying you got to have a long history. I'm just talking about like when you come across somebody that say, hey, I've been watching wrestling for 30 years, but I never heard of the Spinner-Rooney. Really?
Spinner-Rooney? Scorpio. Scorpio.
Like, you never heard of Spinner-Rooney? You never heard of Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club? Got your ass.
No comment.
Are you a wrestling fan if you have very little or no awareness of D-Generation X?
No, you're not a fan.
No. You shouldn't even talk about wrestling if you don't know nothing about DX.
My next question is going to be kind of a counter to that. Are you a wrestling fan because you didn't know who D-Generation X was because you was focused on NWO over at WCW at the time? Because there's some things I miss.
But you can't do that.
No, you can do that. Because I know some people that did not, when it was the Monday Night Wars, right? There are some people that did not watch WWF at the time. They didn't watch it because their show was WCW. If you didn't know about D-Generation X, but you know about NWO, or even vice versa, are you a wrestling fan?
You are a wrestling fan. Because if we go back, NWO was created first. The Generation X didn't come to almost a year later, and it was what was popping. And you didn't know that WWE had a competitor to NWO unless you was one of the people like me who went back and forth, switching between matches and end up catching the formation of the Generation.
Oh yeah,
and that's what I was gonna say because if you watching it, they came on. If I'm not mistaken, WCW came on an hour earlier.
Yeah.
So WCW will let you know what WWE was doing. So there's no way you didn't know because they would tell you like, hey, tonight on WWF at the time.
Well, they give you the matches.
They'll tell you what's going on. So when DX did get formed,
they didn't tell us DX got formed.
Right.
They knew what was happening. They didn't tell us DX
I'm 50-50 with that answer then. I'm 50-50. I'm not going to say you not. I'm not going to say you are.
Well, okay. Yeah, because those are possible scenarios. You know, it was times when I knew WCW was on TV and wrestling and WWF. I didn't switch channel because I was engaged in whatever
I did.
I was engaged in the promos and what was going on. I didn't go back and forth because unless you have like a VCR where you're recording everything, I didn't have VCR to record it. If you miss it, you miss it. There's no recap until you watch next week to see the recap.
Well, that's why the back button was invented on TV remote.
You said back button.
Yeah,
or that last
button.
no back button.
And it goes to the other channel back and forth.
But the thing about the shows, I think when one went on commercial, the other one was still playing. So I think their commercial times were also kind of, they was good enough where you can go back and forth between the shows. Now, when it got to the main event on both shows, you were stuck watching one or the other depending on what the card was. So I had a favorite WWF, favorite card I did WCW. So a lot of me was WCW because I think that's when Goldberg was like undefeated and he was going crazy and ran shot. And the NWO just weren't entertaining back then. So that was another thing. The NWO was very entertaining back then.
Yeah, because when I watched the Vince McMahon documentary and how Vince had this master strategy to pretty much take the product and make it his own, because that's what he pretty much said. He took their idea, made DX, but went and did a lot of other things that they didn't do. So Vince McMahon had this mentality, I'm going to beat you no matter what. I'm gonna take what you're doing and make it better and do it better.
Which he did.
And that's what ultimately happened.
That's why I said I was 50-50. You're a fan. It's not. I'm not gonna penalize you if you. There's certain things you got to get penalized on. This one is not one of them. I'll say that.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that one.
Here's a iconic match. Hell in a Cell, Mankind versus Undertaker. Undertaker throwing Mankind off and then choke slamming him through the top of the cage. If you never heard of that match, never seen it, are you a fan?
That sucks. That sucks.
I'm gonna say no because it was an iconic moment. He got thrown 30 feet off a cage, and Undertaker thought he was dead.
Yeah. You can't be a fan if you missed that one.
You can't be okay.
You cannot be a fan.
Are you a fan if you never heard or don't know what the word Attitude Era means?
You want to know something? I might be real. I think you can be a fan.
Yeah.
Just because you cannot break down the eras don't mean you don't enjoy the product.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I believe you could be a fan.
You could be a fan because, like
Definitely.
I say, Attitude Era was when we were younger. So
Right.
Yeah, you're a fan. I mean, if you don't know the term and you hear about it and then you kind of go back and just Google Attitude Era WWE and it pops up, that's one thing. You could be a fan and not know that terminology and what that is.
Yeah.
So you could be
Definitely.
a fan.
I can tell you one era I wasn't too fond with that. What was that PG era? That PG era was pissing me off.
Nobody was a fan of the PG era.
was trash.
That was when they was trying to.
I missed the lingerie shows. And
Yeah.
the what was it called?
The panties, bra
matches, and
I thought that was too gimmicky. I thought when they did that, they watered down the women's product. I'm happy now what the women's product is, but yeah, back then I used to be very upset because it's like, dude, there's some real women wrestlers out here. You got them doing bra and panties matches. Like, come on, bro. I mean, I did love the wardrobe malfunction parts, but yeah.
Shout out to Janet Jackson.
WWE debut on Netflix.
Hated it. I'm just playing.
Let's talk about that event, what it meant to WWE, just to kind of just so some people to understand what it means for that debut was they're able to reach a broader audience all over the world, not just US or whatever, but they were to reach a broader audience, and they're also able to get into multiple different languages all over the world. So some are saying that was probably the biggest audience as far as viewership they ever had. So which is a huge moment, right? But what's y'all feedback on just them going to Netflix?
See, I couldn't wait for this question. Okay, my whole thing with this one is I think it's great they're on Netflix. They reach a broader scale of people. My only thing I didn't like the product that was presented for that day one. I was expecting something to be blown off the roof.